Your baby's not showing the normal signs of development and you have that nagging feeling that something just isn't right. Then the doctor confirms the worst, your child has autism. Well, that happened to a local woman and she's now helping other parents that are going through that same painful discovery. Monica Donnelly is 2014 co-chair of the Western New England Walk Now for Autism Speaks, and she's joining me here today to talk about this. Thank you so much, Monica. So we were just talking off camera that there was that recent study that came out that said 1 in 68 kids now have autism. So this is starting to affect a lot more families.
Yes.
Much more now. Talk about before your son was diagnosed with autism though, there was something that you just knew wasn't right.
From a very early age, probably about 3 months old, I definitely knew something was off with my child. He just didn't develop as typically as my daughter developed and other children that I had been in contact with. So I was kind of nagging the doctors from the beginning to help me figure it out. I didn't really have many supporters in the medical field because he was so young, and you know, they would tell me he was just a boy or he was just a little bit slower. So I just kept pushing.
Do a lot of parents say that same thing too, that they just feel something's off and they're kind of curious about it, or they're trying to raise alarms and kind of doctors are like, oh, it's fine, you'll be fine?
I've met both types of parents in my journey. Some of them had absolutely no clue and they were kind of blindsided, and others had a little bit of a clue. Usually if it was a second child or they had kind of worked with children before, they would have some sort of a guess. But the problem is that pediatricians aren't always as aware of it as well, because it takes a special pediatrician to actually give the diagnosis, and so they don't always know the answer either.
Talk about the incident where the healthcare professional noticed that something wasn't right and kind of confirmed your feelings.
We had brought Jason to the pediatrician around 9 months old for not sitting up, rolling over, eating very well, and she sent us to an outpatient therapy to help with that, and it was that woman who noticed his interaction with his sister and that it was a little bit off. And so she started asking some really important questions towards us, you know, in order to help us get the best diagnosis we could get. It was very early.
So, and that's something that you're very fortunate, it was caught much earlier than usual.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that that kind of is making a difference in his therapy now and helping to kind of cope with different techniques to help him kind of get over this or help him learn how to deal with this?
Yes, Jason was diagnosed at 14 months, which is a very early age for getting a diagnosis, and he'll be 3 June 7th, and he tests out in the typical range when it comes to cognitive abilities and the preschool testing. So it's been a tremendous help, all the therapies he's getting, because now he's almost caught up to his peers in some of the skills he needs.
That's great. You must be so happy.
Yes.
That's so incredible.
It's very rewarding.
Oh, it's gotta be. Now talk about Autism Speaks. You obviously weren't familiar with them beforehand, because why would you be? There was no need to, but obviously they've come into your life, and talk about the impact that they've made in your life.
I've had friends and coworkers who have children with autism, and every year I would write my check and make my donation to them and wish them good luck. And after Jason was diagnosed, I felt like I needed to put all my energy somewhere because I couldn't fix him, and so I immediately logged on to find a walk. And it brought me to the Autism Speaks website, and then the walk here in New England that happens in Westfield.
So talk about, what does Autism Speaks do for parents? What do they do for you? What is their purpose?
They serve many purposes. I think the biggest one is just a community of support. And you know, I've met so many other incredible mothers and fathers and families and connected with them. But more importantly, if you log onto their website, they have just such a wealth of information for anything you can think of, whether it's helping with an IEP meeting, finding a place to get your child's hair cut, getting resources for, okay, my child has autism, now what? They have a 100-day resource packet that's free to anybody who gets a diagnosis. You can download it or they'll mail it to you, and it just really kind of lays out what do I need to do, spells out the type of therapies that are available and things like that.
Now, April is Autism Awareness Month, but obviously that's not the only month of the year that you guys are bringing attention to autism. Yes. You even have the walk in September. Talk about that.
We have a big walk in September. It's going to be on September 20th this year at Stanley Park. And it's as much of a that it's a walk and a fundraising event, it's really a community day for families. A lot of families with kids with autism can't really go places or take them many safe places. And this is a day where they can take them, feel safe. We have lots of activities for them, and just a day to celebrate and enjoy families.
I have heard that from other parents that have autistic children that say, it's hard because I'll be out in public and my child starts acting up and kind of people give you the dirty look like, okay, can't you control your kids? So how do parents deal with that? I mean, what are some...
I have no idea. If you find the magic answer, let me know. Before my son, I have a 6-year-old who pretty much has perfect behavior and she knows what's expected of her, and we always felt very successful raising her. And even out in public, maybe looked at those other families like, oh, you know, we've got this under control. And since my son, Jason, who's complete opposite, we are the family out in public that sometimes gets stared at and looked at, and I don't know if I'll ever get comfortable with that.
Do you ever try to reach out maybe to that person saying, you know, this is why, or do you kind of just leave it alone? And I mean, how do you handle a situation like that? It's got to be tough.
I will be completely honest in that in those situations I don't handle it very well. I can talk about autism and Jason and his experiences, and I'm a very open book, but in the moment when we're having a tough moment as a family, it's something that is hard for me. My daughter, on the other hand, when we're out to a restaurant and he has a meltdown, sometimes we'll say things like, that's my brother, he has autism, and kind of make it, you know, where the whole family kind of laughs and feels a little bit more comfortable. So
it just seems as if there needs to be a better understanding. Society perhaps needs a better understanding of where autistic children are coming from. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and I think that in general, moms need to be better understanding of other moms. Something that I don't think I even was very good about before having Jason. You kind of feel maybe successful, or you feel judgmental towards another family because your child is doing so well. And bottom line is you can't control how your child's behaving, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can do.
It's a great reminder never to be judgmental of somebody else.
Yes.
You never know what they're going through.
Whenever Jason has a meltdown, it's a constant reminder, like, remember? So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure he has completely changed your life and for the better, so.
Absolutely.
That's great. Monica, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.